Hello, this is Third Eye Africa TV broadcasting from the Central Business District, Abuja. My name is Bivan Magoni. Thank you for staying with us. In our headlines, Nigeria's defense announced activation of ECOWAS standby force. Delta State Police Command arrests suspected gun runner with assorted ammunition. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC detains 4 Chinese nationals over illegal mining in Plateau State. Stay with us. We'll be right back for details of these stories and more.
Deeper analysis on security situation in Nigeria and beyond. Watch Third Eye Africa TV.
My name is Bivan Magoni with the news in detail. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has activated its standby force to fight terrorism and other trans-border and criminal activities in the sub-region. Nigeria's Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, announced the activation during the 43rd edition of the ordinary meeting of ECOWAS Committee of the Chiefs of Defense in Abuja on Tuesday. The meeting was attended by chiefs of ECOWAS countries except Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger Republic that had withdrawn from the sub-regional body. Badaru said the meeting underscores member nations' shared commitment in addressing the critical security challenges confronting the sub-region. According to the defense minister, by leveraging their collective expertise, resources, and commitment, ECOWAS members can make tangible impacts on fostering peace, stability, and prosperity. In his welcome remarks, Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, said the meeting demonstrated a collective drive towards addressing various security threats that afflict the region. Musa said the military leaders were aware that without a secure and conducive environment, economic growth and development will continue to elude the region. He therefore called on the armed forces to support the political leadership by entrenching conducive and secure environment for economic development to thrive. To the police in Delta State, operatives of the Delta State Police Command in South Nigeria have arrested a suspected gun runner with 3 AK-47 rifles and assorted ammunition loaded in 4 boxes. The suspect, 55-year-old Peter James, was reportedly nabbed on March 3, 2025, while the operatives were carrying out a stop and search duty along the Warri-Benin Road by Western Delta University, Ogara. A statement signed by the police public relations officer, Bright Idafe, noted that the operatives intercepted a blue-colored Toyota Camry driven by the suspect. During a search, it was observed that the trunk of the said Camry car was unusually small, arousing the suspicion of the men who were convinced that the vehicle had been modified for malicious purposes. He said operatives then proceeded and removed the seat of the vehicle only to discover the exhibits. In a related development, operatives intercepted a blue Sharon space bus driven by one Yahuza Magaji in company of a 17-year-old boy at Basani, both of Lere local government area of Kaduna State. According to Mr. Idafe, the duo disguised as traders transporting palm oil and gari, but the police, who insisted on thorough search of the vehicle, recovered 7 pump-action guns and 5 cartons containing 1,600 rounds of live cartridges concealed under the back seat of the vehicle. Preliminary investigation revealed that the suspects bought the arms from Onitsha and were transporting them to Kaduna State. He said the suspects are already in custody and investigation is ongoing. Nigerian police force has successfully rescued Reverend Father Abraham Saman of the Catholic Diocese of Yola and Reverend Father Matthew Dusami of the Catholic Diocese of Jalingo. The Catholic priests, who were kidnapped on the 21st of February 2025 in Adamo State, were successfully rescued unharmed and without any ransom paid on the 8th of March 2025. A statement by the force spokesperson Olumuyiwa Adejobi, an assistant commissioner of police, said that the victims are currently receiving medical attention at the hospital. Force Public Relations Officer Muyiwa Adejobi stated that a well-coordinated rescue operation also led to the arrest of Tahamado Damian, 34, suspected to be part of the same church as the victims in connection with the kidnapping incident. He said a locally fabricated assault rifle, some ammunition, a handset, and SIM cards were recovered during the ongoing investigation, along with intensified efforts to apprehend other fleeing members of the kidnapping gang. To Anambra State, the state government says it has begun the digital registration of hotels and entertainment centers as part of measures to tackle insecurity in the state. Mr. Don Onyeji, the State Commissioner for Culture, Entertainment and Tourism, said this in Oka during a one-day interactive session with hotel owners in the state. According to him, the Anambra State government wants to make the state a place where people can come, invest, and also relax. Onyeji said that no nation could grow without these industries being restructured, responsive, and well managed. He said that the state government was poised to make the industries function to international standards. Similarly, Mr. Gilbert Ibezim, Deputy Governor of the state, urged the hoteliers to read and digest the homeland security laws of the state to enable them implement it to tackle insecurity and attract investment. Ibezim tasked the hotel owners on functional closed-circuit television cameras in their hotels to also help secure security. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) has detained 4 Chinese and 27 others of alleged illegal mining in Jos, the Plateau State capital. This is contained in a statement by the Commission's spokesperson, Dele Oyewale, on Tuesday in Abuja. Oyewale said that the suspects were arrested on Saturday in the premises of Jiasheng Nigeria Limited, located at Jura Refield, Jos. He said that the arrest was sequel to credible intelligence linking the company to illegal mining activities in the state. According to him, the suspects include 4 Chinese and 27 Nigerians, part of who are suppliers in possession of unprocessed solid minerals suspected to have been illegally mined. He added that some exhibits, which include a truck loaded with 8 bags of processed monazite weighing 1,000 kilograms worth 4 million naira each, were recovered from the suspects. Thank you for staying with us. We'll go on a short break. Sometime in 2015, Sunday Jackson, a 29-year-old man student from Dung community, Demsa local government area of Adamawa State, was working in his farm in Kodamti community in Numa local government area when a herdsman, Buba Adodoro, casually worked into his farm with his animals and to feed them. And in the process, Jackson challenged him and he pulled out a knife in the and there was this violent attack on the farmer. Now, it was more like 2 people fighting. And in spite of his injuries, rather, Jackson was able to overpower the herdsman, seized the knife, and stabbed him in return. And the attacker later died from his wounds. Jackson was arrested and tried in Yola High Court for culpable homicide with death under Section 211 Penal Code. He admitted that his attacker died as a result of the duel, but he said he was not guilty of any offense. The prosecution urged the trial judge, Fatima Ahmed Tafida, to convict Jackson based on his confessional statement. But Jackson's lawyer countered, praying the court to discharge and acquit his client because he had self-defense. Then in February 2021, the judge laid out her judgment. She held that because Jackson had confessed that he killed the herdsman, he to die by hanging, that the farmer only defended himself from being killed, and no meaning from being killed too. And the judge reasoned rather that he should have fled the scene the moment he gained advantage of his attacker. But the question we are asking is, how could he have fled when he had already, sustained an injury? And the fact that he was attacked in his farm Now, this conversation is still raging in Nigeria at the moment, and it is gaining global attention. When a couple of days ago, I saw Barrister Emmanuel Gebe on Arise TV alongside William Devlin, a pastor from the United States of America, and who has been rendering humanitarian services to communities that are affected by herders farmers conflict and all sorts of conflicts, more especially Plateau, Kaduna, Benue, Adamawa. I mean, entirely the northern states in Nigeria. Now they are saying they're calling the government and Nigeria and Nigerians in general to come to the aid of Sunday Jackson, whose verdict has been upheld by the Supreme Court that you should die by hanging. So right now joining me is Pastor William Devlin. Hello, sir. Good morning to you. I know you're in the U.S.
Hello,
right now.
good morning.
How are you doing?
Yes, just arrived. Just arrived just about 12 hours ago after spending 10 days there working on this case. Sunday Jackson, this young man, been on death row for 10 years, is totally innocent. This was a case of self-defense, and all the courts there in Nigeria, they should be totally embarrassed. This is a gross violation.
Okay, so we're looking at it.
And it is an absolute train wreck. Yeah.
So we're looking at it from this perspective. Do you think the court don't you think there was a case of due process before the court arrived at this verdict of saying, look, this young man has to die by hanging? Were there any other substantial evidences? Do you think there was something like that, or do you think it's just miscarriage of justice on this young man?
Even with his confessional statement that Sunday was attacked by this unknown man, so there was no premeditation, and the crime he's convicted of, murder one. In other words, there had to be, in the eyes of the Nigerian court, premeditation. There was no premeditation in this situation. Sunday Jackson did not know his attacker. Sunday Jackson was minding his own business, working in his field there in Adamawa State, and this Fulani herdsman came with his cattle, this Islam, and began to trample Sunday Jackson's crops. Sunday Jackson kindly asked him to stop. The man pulled out a knife and attacked Jackson. A struggle ensued, and after being stabbed at least once, Sunday Jackson wrested the knife from his Fulani herdsman Islamist attacker. And then, so Sunday Jackson would not die. Sunday Jackson killed his attacker. So this was totally Sunday Jackson defending himself. It's a clear case of self-defense. But because of the situation there in Nigeria, that the courts refused to let Sunday Jackson go, they should have charged him with manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, not murder one. And so now that case was appealed all the way to the Nigerian Supreme Court. I was in the Nigerian Supreme Court in Abuja there last Friday on March the 7th. And Sunday Jackson's case was at the end of 30 cases, and all the Supreme Court justice said at the end of the time was case dismissed, and that Sunday Jackson is going to be hanged by the neck. So now we are on a fast track. If you go to hashtag Sunday Jackson, we are in a full-blown social media and media outreach to say that Sunday Jackson is totally innocent. This is a train wreck, miscarriage of justice. It's an embarrassment for the nation of Nigeria trying to come, here's Nigeria trying to come in to the community of nations. And this is not the first time that a Fulani herdsman has attacked a Christian farmer. So we've had it. And that's why we're appealing to governor of Adamawa State, Governor Fintiri, and we are pulling out all the stops in order for the governor to hopefully grant clemency to Sunday Jackson, or at least commute the sentence to time served, and Sunday Jackson can go free because Sunday Jackson is an innocent man.
Nigeria here, if this were to have happened in the state where you are from and where you are at the moment, involuntary manslaughter in this case, what do you think will have been the verdict?
Well, he might have spent a couple of years in jail, and I'm calling you from Washington, D.C. right now, and I'm down at the United States House of Representatives, and I'm going into a hearing on the U.S. House of Representatives African Subcommittee, and because of all the gross violations of human rights in Nigeria, gross violations of people like Sunday Jackson, the U.S. House of Representatives is considering placing Nigeria back on what's called the U.S. State Department CPC list, or country of particular concern. Nigeria has been on this list before under the previous Trump administration. President Biden took Nigeria off the particular concern list, and now in President Trump's second part of being president, or his second term, the U.S. State Department and Secretary of State Marco Rubio and some legislators in the House of Representatives want to put Nigeria back on the country of particular concern list because of the repeated gross violations of human rights there in Nigeria, particularly that are against Christians. You know, Sunday Jackson is not the only Christian that's on death row. And so Sunday Jackson is probably now the most celebrated case. So I want your viewers to know that Sunday Jackson is totally innocent. He never been charged with these charges. Even the appeal court judge went outside the normal 90-day rule. This appeals court judge had 90 days to make her decision, the decision on the Sunday Jackson case, and she went 157 days out. So unfortunately, it wasn't caught by our attorney, and now the case was remanded to the Nigerian Supreme Court. And without our intervention, and without the intervention of the governor of Adamawa State, Sunday Jackson, been on death row for years, Sunday Jackson will be hanged by the neck. So that's why I'm with you this morning. That's why we're appealing through other print and television media outlets to say, please contact the governor of Adamawa State, and let's make sure that Sunday Jackson is going to be out of jail. And then we can be working on the other gross violations of human rights that are present now in Nigeria. If you don't stand up for Sunday Jackson, then you're not standing up for anybody. So I'm asking all yours, all your listeners, stand up for Sunday Jackson, reach out to the governor of Adamawa State, and let's get this poor young man off of death row. Let's save him from the hangman's noose. If you've never stood up for any other case, stand up for Sunday Jackson. You can call me. Let me give you my number. You call me at +1, it's an American number, +1 646 233 7279. You can text me, SMS me. I'm on Instagram, William PB Devlin, and all over the place. So stand up for Sunday Jackson, make a difference so we can stop these gross violations, these train wrecks of human rights abuses there in Nigeria.
Now, you made mention of human rights abuses that Christians particularly suffer, and that's the reason why you are in Washington, D.C. right now to listen to this African subcommittee on human rights violations and all of that. But When we look at it in Nigeria, particularly, and I know you've been visiting Nigeria for the past how many years, and if you look at Nigeria's case now, it's not just about no Christians being affected. We have places in Zamfara State, we have places like Katsina, where Muslims are attacked. I mean, if you look at it, it's Muslims perpetrating this kind of act against Muslims. We had a case of a young lady a couple of months ago where she was arrested, and she's a Muslim, and the Zamfara State governor was fingered to have been involved in it. Don't you think it's a whole case of Nigeria needs total and thorough sanitation, and instead of looking at it along religious lines? What do you think about that?
Well, certainly. I mean, there are multiple violations of human rights, not just based upon Fulani versus Muslim versus Christian, but simple human rights abuses. You know, look at what's happening up north, where a local emir up, I forget what state it is, but he has now banned residential Christian assemblies from meeting in homes. So if people want to meet for a Bible study in their home, this emir is saying, this sheikh is saying, they cannot meet in their homes for Bible study or for Christian worship. When I was in Kano for 3 days working on another human rights abuse case of a Christian orphanage. While we were there, the Kano state government said that during Ramadan, all schools must close. Doesn't matter, Muslim, Christian, all schools must close. So now Christian pastors, like the state, they have been affiliated with the church there, that school has to close all during Ramadan. So children will lose another 40 days of learning. So it's really gotten out of control, not only on cases like Sunday Jackson, but this ban on Bible studies in people's homes, this ban that you cannot operate a school during Ramadan. So our children need to be educated. The Nigerian children need to be educated, not kept at home with nothing to do. So Nigeria, it seems in my 4 years of coming to Nigeria, last week was my 16th trip there. It just appears to me that human rights violations and human rights abuses, it's not getting better. It's not even the same. It's getting worse and worse and worse with every ensuing day. So if Nigerians are not going to stand against these human rights violations and human rights abuses, when are you going to stand up? You know the classic phrase, if not now, then when? And if not now, then who? So Nigeria, you got to stand up. This is your time. Nigeria is your country. And, you know, they're coming for the Christians, but when are they for you? They're coming for the Sunday Jacksons, but when are they going to come for you? So now is the time for you to stand up and make a difference. And they're going to take courage? Yes. Are you afraid? Yes. I mean, I could have been arrested for any violation. Not that I did it wrong, but I could have been stopped in the air and brought into immigration and have my 5-year Nigerian visa revoked. But I went in order to stand up for Sunday Jackson and these other human rights violations and abuses. And so myself and Barrister Emmanuel Agebe, we can't do it by ourselves. So we need all of you viewers and all of you listeners to join us. So now's the time for you to stand up, Nigeria.
Okay, thank you so much, Pastor Devlin. But we also want to.
All right, thank you.
We're not done. We're not done. If you can spare us a few more minutes. So you were
I
concerned
shall.
more about the Christian communities, but have you tried to balance this by visiting the Muslim communities to see exactly what they're going through? Because so far it's more you are more involved in Christian advocacy. Have you tried to see what the Muslim communities go through?
Well, I've heard some stories, but just by the probabilities just by the number of Christians that are under attack. That's where I'm going to put my effort. I'm happy when I come back to learn of other stories, but I've heard of new stories of aggressive Christians attacking Fulanis. It's 99% against one. So I'm working on the 99%, these gross violations of human rights abuses there against Christians. And I'm happy to listen to any Muslim who has a similar story, and we'll advocate for them, of course. But I think your viewers and listeners, and you your relations that are going on now are against Christians there in Nigeria.
Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, on the eve of the inauguration of the new U.S. president, who is coming back for the second term, the rep from Pennsylvania, Scott Perry, made an allegation about the USAID, which of course I know you're quite familiar with it. What do you think about it? Do you think foreign organizations like the USAID are involved in funding terrorist organizations like the Boko Haram, ISIS, and the likes of them, Al Qaeda?
Yeah, I mean that issue comes up every now and then. I do work in Iraq, and there was a theory that somehow U.S. government money was being spent to prop up ISIS. I don't know. It may be a conspiracy theory as far as I'm concerned. And is there any truth that comes out of that? I'm not sure. But at this point, I want to stay focused on what's happening with the known gross violations of human rights there in Nigeria. And I'll let other people spend their time figuring out whether or not there was U.S. government money going to Boko Haram or Islamic State West Africa province. I'm not, I'm a man of limited means, so I've got to stay focused on what is happening now to Sunday Jackson.
All right. Can we get last words from you before you sign out?
Yeah, you sure can. Thank you for having me on today. And again, I want to encourage Nigerians to stand up. Now is your time. Nigeria is the place. Stay in contact with me. You can also reach me by email, drwdevlin@gmail, drwdevlin@gmail.com. Shoot me an email that stands for Dr. William Devlin, DRW Devlin, DEV as in victory, LIN @gmail.com. So you be in contact with me, and I'm sure you'll have me back on to give you an update. We're waiting for word from the governor. We're putting pressure on the governor of Adamawa State that he will grant clemency or at least commute this sentence to time served. The poor guy's been on death row for 10 years. I was able to visit him February 19th, 2021. I went to the Adamawa State Prison there in Yola. We prayed for Sunday Jackson. We ministered to him, and we said we're going to continue to stand up for him. That was 4 years ago, so here we are today. And again, please, listeners, viewers, reach out to me. You can see me on social media, on Instagram. Just look up William Devlin or Octane Face. So God bless you, and let's pray for this innocent man, Sunday Jackson, hashtag Sunday Jackson, and let's get him out of prison. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Pastor
God
William
bless.
Devlin. Do have a great day.
All right. God bless you, and Jesus loves you.
Thank you, and you too. All right, Pastor William Devlin there from the United States of America. He was in Nigeria a couple of days ago, and I know him to be very, very active when it comes to advocacy for the Christian community. But then that's just his view. And of course, like he said, he would be glad to get someone to tell him more stories about coming from the Muslim communities. And so if we have someone who is ready or who is really interested in throwing more light on what is happening in Nigeria beyond religious purviews, will gladly, Third Eye Africa TV, get you on board to hold this conversation on this issue. So that's it for now. But we are going on a break shortly, and we'll come back with a look at what's happening in the news and then in our national dailies, and then we'll take a review of the newspaper headlines and all of that. Do stay with us. This is Third Eye Africa. Here we are looking at The Nation, which is the first paper we are going to be looking at, and then on the front page, and with let's see the continuation on what page. Okay, on page 2 it says Tinubu to Fubara comply fully with Supreme Court verdict. Please go back home and help him implement those recommendations. President urges Pandef. And then arson in Benue of killing of 5 council headquarters burnt. You can find that story on page 6 of the Nation's newspaper. NIMED predicts intense heat in 19 states. Natasha reports Senate to Inter-Parliamentary Union. You can find both stories on page 3 of the Nation's newspaper. And then ECOWAS activates 5,000 strong standby force right here from the Nation's newspaper. Let's see. This is Supreme Court clears political fog over Rivers. You can find that on the back page of the Nation's newspaper. Why more young people are dying these days, by Ni Akinoso. You can find that on the back page of the Nation's newspaper. And then quickly we'll move to the Daily Trust. Daily Trust says tax reform bills reps committee proposes major changes. You can find the story on pages 4 and 6 of the newspaper. Drops VAT increase, modifies inheritance tax, and then sustains funding for TETFON, NIDA, and NASENI. And then meningitis kills 26 in Kebbi, 1 in Sokoto. You can find this story on page 3. Life expectancy in Nigeria now 54.6 years below global average on page 45 of the Nation's Daily Trust newspaper. Tinubu to Fubara implements Supreme Court judgment. You can also find the same story on page 15 of the Daily Trust newspaper. A word in favor of native authority. You can find that at the back. What is it about? And then to sport, Maradona medical team on trial for football icon's death. This story has been going on since the man died, so you can pick a copy of the Daily Trust and take a look at that. Draper solves Brooksby puzzle in Indian Wells, all on the back page of the Daily Trust. And then looking at the Blueprint newspaper, finance leaders to headline Access Bank Africa Conference 2025 on page 21. And then tribute Kabiru Dangogo, a luminary in multiple realms, farewell on page 17 of the Blueprint. And then to page 21 we have FD certifies NACO to handle radioactive materials. And then to sports, CAF appoints Moroccan officials for Rwanda Spy Eagles cracker, page 32. But we're not done here. NPC will deliver credible census to Nigerians, Issa Kwara assures on the front page, and then continuation on page 8. And then Rivers crisis led Fubara adhere to the rule of law. Tinubu tells Pandef, urges them to counsel governor on return of peace. Supreme Court okays probe of Odili's tenure 18 years after. Very interesting story there. 26 die of meningitis in Kebbi, 248 cases recorded. Lagos confirms fresh diphtheria, begins vaccination. You can find the story on page 8. Conjoined twins, 11 others get GIPLC's 300 million intervention. You can find the story on page 9 of the Blueprint newspaper. And then this banger here, go and implement Supreme Court judgment in hotels, Fubara. And then crisis erupts in SDP 24 hours after Erufai's membership. The first story you can find on page 4, and then the second story you can find on page 60. ECOWAS activists stand by force against terrorism. It's on page 4 and goes on to say, to tackle transborder crimes, defense chiefs meet after Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger exit. IGP bans parade of suspects on page 26 die of meningitis in Kebbi on page 53. Ukraine backs U.S. proposal for 30-day ceasefire on page 7. And then PDP leaders behind kidnappings in Edo state government. Well, that would be an interesting conversation because I witnessed a lot during the Guba elections in that state, and Edo state is very interesting anyways. And then to the back of the newspaper, and still we rise, celebrating women's resilience and strength on International Women's Day. And we have this interesting cartoon here. Ghana must go. Court jails Enugu Psychiatric Hospital MD for contempt. He should have taken a mental test instead. But these are just the headlines we have here. Joining me on this, we have our in-house analyst and, of course, veteran journalist. We have Mr. Udoy Etefia and Dahiru Hassan Kera, both of them political commentators and public affairs analysts. Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. Good
morning, everyone.
Morning. Yeah, we've just had an interesting conversation with Reverend Williams Devlin. And Udoy, I'll start with you. You heard him and how he was more interested. You know, Nigeria has lots of issues at the moment. So with the way it is going, people should be more interested in healing, in the healing process of Nigeria. And on his own part, he's like more of focus on the Christian community and what is happening, what he feels the reports he's getting. But it is interesting to see that he goes on to say, I don't know much about the Muslim community and what they are going through. And if I can get someone to throw in more light, please, we would very much appreciate. But let's get your take on the conversation about the young man, Sunday Jackson, who had a confrontation with the herder in his farm about 10 years ago. And he was wounded. He fought, and then he was able to, kill his attacker. What do you think about the whole scenario in the first place? Is the judgment, the verdict, do you think it's fair?
Yes, let me start by saying that the case, the issue of Sunday Jackson, has again brought to the fore the whole challenge, the whole problem of insecurity in Nigeria. You'll recall that these farmer either clashes started, I think, some 12 years back. And as at that time, I don't think that our government was able to tackle it and to nip it in the bud, to stop it from escalating. You recall that it started, I think, in Benue State.
It started as far back as we can remember, 2011, yes. After the post-election crisis, right? But yes. Everything intensified around 2013, 2014, where everything started from the post-election crisis.
Exactly. You know, before then, we were having this Boko Haram issue was very prominent.
Yes.
But farmer herders clashes came, I mean, around that 2014, 15, and nothing was being done about it on the part of the government. So it allowed it to fester and to explode to the extent of having, hundreds of people being killed. And it brought also to the fore the discussion in public fora that there is need for people to arm themselves so that they can, since government cannot defend the people, since government cannot put measures in place to check killing of people in their farms unnecessarily. So there should be need for people to arm themselves, to defend themselves against attackers. So I think this is where the case of Sunday Jackson and the elder that confronted him in his farm comes in. I do not know how the courts adjudicated on the matter and arrived at the decision. But all we know is that from the High Court to the Supreme Court, the death sentence has been upheld. So, we do not know the details of the judgment as at now. But we know that people, especially human rights activists, have risen to say, no, this Sunday Jackson acted in self-defense. And it should have been a case of manslaughter, not murder as it is, it was taken to the court, and the court looked at it based on his confessional statement that he killed the elder. So the court convicted him. So what does the court, or what did the court expect him to have done in this circumstance? I think I heard one of the speakers saying that he should have fled, or that was the conclusion of the court, that he should have fled. But how do you flee? How do you flee when you were wounded? So I think something needs to be done. Government has to put measures in place. It has, thank God for for President Bola Tinubu's decision to set up this cattle ministry, and
yes,
that is still in the work. So I think this will go to checking some of these things.
Well, I think this conversation is very interesting, but I also love to get a lawyer here to tell us exactly how we arrived at that. But before then, let's get from your own judgment, Dahiru, what do you think could have led to the whole of this judgment? And do you think it's fair enough on anyone to be attacked and then in self-defense you end up? What do you think about this?
Well, it's very sad actually, and sometimes, like you said, we are not lawyers, and the judgment has been administered. You understand, and I know a lot has happened, and like Mr. Odo was saying, we have to look at the root causes of all this before even arriving of this particular case, because we have so many incidences where there were clashes, headers and farmers here and there. First of all, I want to give a kind of fault to the side of the government, like a kind of a lack of political will and commitment to checkmate all these things happening within our communities. Why I say so is that, all this grazing reserve that we've been neglecting, playing politics with, they could have done better in checkmating all these menaces of clashes between the farmers, headers here and there. It has also have a kind of economic implication, because you may find out in some certain cases where a farmer worked throughout the months rainy season, when it comes to harvesting, you understand.
And sometimes in some cases dry season also, because
you understand, you find out that a header will come in with his cows or whatsoever and finish the farm within a span of hours or days. If, for instance, we have a kind of demarcated grazing reserve, grazing line of movement, you understand, we wouldn't have be having all this crisis by headers and farmers. The former governor of Jigawa State has tried, because there was a time that we went around to all the 27 local governments of Jigawa State, and we learned that there was a kind of demarcated area of movement for the headers, you understand, and even the farmers. There will be a limit, more especially those farmers that farm close to the main road and all that, you understand. There was a kind of demarcation, and everybody worked within his own legally permitted boundaries, you understand. But so long as we allow these things to just happen like that, there's no policy by the government to checkmate all these things, this crisis will be occurring, happening, you understand. Like I said, it has a kind of economic implication. Most of, particularly in the northern part of the country, where predominantly people are farmers here and there, you understand. You farm for so many years, and end of the day, someone will just come with his cows and finish off what you must have farmed through all this period. Another thing on this particular case, we are not there actually, and I believe that court must have maybe relied on some evidences and other things, and maybe the kind of defense on the side of the victim. But naturally, self-defense is something that in some crimes not been looking at, like someone is committing a crime, you understand. A criminal will just barge into your house and say, bring this and this, you want to rob you, and at the end of the day, if you kill him, in the side of the law, I don't know, sometimes people will not look at it that way, because you may imagine even someone, who at first instituted the case, the legal case against this what's the name?
Sunday Jackson.
Sunday Jackson. You understand? Because in actual sense, a criminal that's going to attack you, you understand, doesn't have this legal right and privileges. You understand? Or even his family members and other people in the society to even take you to the court or police or any other thing. Like Mr. Odo said, this person has been wounded, and people were even saying he must have fled. You understand? But to him, consciously, he knows that he's not committing a crime. Somebody is coming to kill him. So, in a kind of trying to defend himself, you understand, eventually get the attacker killed. You understand? It's like, okay, let's just take, for instance, those security personnel, you understand, fighting all sort of criminalities like the Boko Haram, the bandits and other things, you understand? At times, during a kind of gun duel and other things, you may find out there will be casualties on the side of the criminals. And nobody will claim, okay, why at the first place, why did you kill them? You understand? But certainly, there's a kind of condition that will warrant someone to react to an extent, maybe incidentally at the end of the day kill his attacker. And I don't know, I may not much legally savvy, but in my own perception, you understand, somebody that kill his own attacker, I think the law should have been very soft on him, more especially on self-defense.
Yeah, and this is how interesting it is that I came across a tweet that says, if an armed robber comes to your house with a gun and you rescue that gun from him and you're able to collect the gun and use it to kill him, you've committed a crime. I would love to explore that legal angle.
That is on the side of the law.
That's on the side of the law.
Of the law. You understand?
And it's fascinating. So I should just sit down and watch someone shoot me, butcher me, kill me, and then what is my compensation? People will buy t-shirts, do candlelights, Ade will Bivan, and that's the end of it.
That is what I was saying. That's the sad side of it, you understand? On the side of the law, you must have committed crime, you understand? While if the criminal eventually got succeeded in eliminating you understand, like I said, people just burning candle and mourning and all that, that's all. You understand? Sometimes even the criminals will not be apprehended. There are a lot of things happen in this country, and we have to strengthen our laws, you understand? We have to give our laws a kind of human face, you understand? Because you know, you mentioned some issues here, like your guest who spoke extensively on the issue of this problem faced by the criminal Christian communities here and there. And he was even saying that he doesn't know what is happening in other side of the country, particularly the northern part of the country, where predominantly the people there are Muslims, you understand. But notwithstanding, you know, we find ourselves like most of our northern states, you find out that they used to have a kind of native Christians. Like if you go to Maiduguri, particularly the southern Borno, where we have this Chibok and other, the people there predominantly are Christians, you understand, and they live in harmony peacefully with their own Muslim brothers and sisters. And if you go to Gombe, we have about we have 11 local governments in the state, and out of the 11 local government in Gombe, you have Uemal today, but where we still have native Christians. You go to Kaltungo, Iliri, Shangom, Balanga, we still have native Christians, you understand. These are 5 out of, even Ako, 6 out of the 11 local governments, you know it. And if you go to Adamawa, go to Taraba, you understand. And in the Nigerian establishment, you find out that there was this case where a Igbo woman was found in a kind of far village in Maiduguri by the government. You understand? You know, those days we have people not minding what you're practicing. Humanity in us should have supersede any other inclination. You know, we have to be post-humans before inclining or identifying with any religion. pick a child, a newly born child, to a Christian community, give him to a pastor. That child may probably grew of a kind of a Christian practicing fellow. You understand? The same thing when a baby born from the pastor's house, pick that baby, go and give Islamic cleric. You understand? Probably this boy or girl may grow of a kind of practicing Islam and other things, even become a preacher. So these are things that we should be considering, because a lot of things are happening, and there should be a kind of effort by the government. You understand? A lot has been said, particularly people are even accusing politicians of playing politics with all this ethno-religious yes, because naturally, like I said, this woman that was found from Borno, she doesn't have any peer living there. We know, more especially Igbos and Yorubas, you understand. Virtually in any village in the north, you find one Igbo or Yoruba doing business there, particularly doing this chemist and other things.
You know, I was having this conversation with someone a couple of months ago, and there was something he said to me. This is in relation to what you just said, made mention of there are people who are taking advantage of ethno-religious crisis to create more chaos. And in some instances, they are referred to as conflictpreneurs, and they benefit from it. And in this conversation with these guys from Zamfara State, there was something they made mention of, and I did an investigation, I found out to be true. In all of this crisis happening in Zamfara State, if you are a Christian, you are not Hausa Fulani, you live in any of those communities, they are protecting you more than any other person. A lot of people don't know this. And I find that very, very interesting. Even though Nigeria is, you know, sometimes bad news sells faster. But this is some of the things we need to start changing the narratives. You go to, to the north, core north, anywhere, you must find an Igbo man in, like they say, if you go to any community, you don't find an Igbo man in that community, please leave that community. And I don't think there's any community you go to, you don't find an Igbo man. So we need to start changing the narrative and encourage, start talking about this positive aspect parts of our society. And I would have loved to ask, why is Jigawa State not always in the news?
Like I fortunate to have a kind of very close relationship with people of Jigawa State, and I went to Jigawa on several occasions. Mostly you find out right from the days of Samini Traki, you understand, coming to the days of Sula Lamido, Badaru, and now this present governor, Damodi, you understand. The governors per se have a kind of passion to make sure that everybody is peacefully doing his own business. They didn't allow, you understand, a lot of this unnecessary extremism, you understand, and this politics of a thing, because sometimes if you allow things happening, like what is been happening in River State now, criminals will take advantage of all these things. But when a kind of politics is being played with decorum, a government has a kind of passionate commitment to make sure that everybody is living peacefully within his own domain. You understand? You may find out that there will not be much stories oozing out from those states. That is why you see, if not of recent, where there was this insinuation of a kind of political differences between the governor and his predecessor, you understand. We don't have much, you understand, crisis as far as politics is concerned.
No, beyond politics, it is not even, because
that is what I'm saying. That's what I'm coming back to security. Yeah. Jigawa shared border with Yobe, you understand, Kano, not Zamfara, Kano, part of Bauchi, you understand. Okay. Yeah, you may find out that those states, particularly the Yobe, have a lot of issues of Boko Haram and other things, but Jigawa were able to at least a kind of checkmate all this border movement. And you understand, intelligence gathering is very important. When people are very determined to make sure that if they see strangers coming into their own communities, they report to the security. A lot of things happened even during Sulelamid when Boko Haram was so deadly, doing a lot of things, so prevailing. You understand, there was a lot of a kind of things that happen, but because the government has a passion to make sure that they checkmate the coming of Boko Haram into Jigawa, they did a lot of.
They were intentional about their state.
Yes, of course.
Welfare.
That's what I'm saying. And let me tell you, there was a time that a particular governor. Let me not just be mentioning names so that someone will not take or consider that I've been promoting a particular person or particular party. A governor in Jigawa State used to come and stop at the major roads linking the state to other neighboring states to make sure that vehicles passing through the state didn't carry overload passengers, overload goods, so that to save life, safeguard the lives and property. So you understand, if you allow people, they just behave like animals. You see a person, a driver driving, someone sitting by his own left side, you understand? Two by the right, or even in some cases you see three, and usually those cars, the boot, even the top roof of the car. You understand, that time the governor was stood there and make sure that no car fires with either overload with humans, animals or goods. You understand? If you found one thing, you understand, there was a kind of a mobile court. You understand? They will yes, they will tax you. You pay money before you take your car. These are things that if the government has passion to do, the government policy, you understand, tying or going towards making sure that people do what the author have been doing. You know, this is to tell you how far this leadership have gone, you understand, to make sure that everybody is safe within their own domain, particularly their state. So usually these are things I believe, to my own understanding, that maybe add to what has been happening in Jigawa, that you are not being seeing kind of ugly stories coming out, even when there was Boko Haram, even when the share border with Yobe, one of the states that has been largely affected by Boko Haram and all that is.
Okay, this has been an interesting conversation, even though we never planned to get to find out more about Jigawa State. But I asked that question out of curiosity, and I believe you've also been enlightened, even though when I try to think about it mentally, where is Jigawa State? I'm just hearing it shares border with Kano, it shares with Yobe, with
Yobe, Bauchi.
Borno too, right?
Not Borno, it's only Yobe. And Yobe link up to Borno.
Okay.
You know, to add to what I've said, but there are certain states, like, okay, let me give an example with Gombe State, where I came from. You understand? You see, Gombe State is as the center of the northeastern states, you understand?
Okay.
Where there was a huge movement of Boko Haram, you understand, fighters to the state, a lot of things. Even the Mohammed Yusuf, who was the prominent Boko Haram founder and other things, you understand? He usually visit the state and other things, because at the time where they were launching such attacks and other things, bomb blasts, and though it happens in few instances in the state, but I was privileged to know some of the strategies the state government adopted to make sure that the influx of Boko Haram from Yobe, Borno, and Adamawa, these are three states that were largely affected by Boko Haram crisis, you understand. But Gombe being at the center, you understand, they did a lot of things. And at the time, there was these incidences where people are just going rampage in the state, killing, shooting people, you understand. And the government brought out every stakeholder, particularly the police, soldiers, and mapped out the strategy. And at the end of the day, they apprehended the syndicates. So it boils down to the commitment of the leadership in such states, you understand. particularly on the issue of security, because even during the news now, you said a lot of things, more especially pertaining regarding the security. So long as there's no security in all these states, business will not grow, people will not do farming, you understand, people cannot do anything. And at the end of the day, like I said, it has a kind of economic implication. So everything boils down to the political commitment of leaders in those states.
Okay. We still have some newspaper stories to quickly take a look at before we sign out. We have go and implement Supreme Court judgment, Tinubu tells Fubara. Now, we heard that after 24 hours that El-Rufai moved into the SDP, there's been crisis in the membership. And now ECOWAS activates standby force against terrorism. And even though the Natasha issue being at the UN is gaining, has been there, I think about this is the second day. It's not new in the newspapers. But I would like to see Mr. Udo take on one or two of these stories, and then we'll come back to you, and then we'll briefly take a look at these stories and analyze them and see what do you think about any of the stories you think.
Yes, the president, one of the news that runs through the newspapers is the charge that the president has given to the governor of Rivers State, Sim Fubara, to implement the judgment of the Supreme Court that people feel may eventually bring peace to Rivers State. You know, since 2023, after the election, you know that Fubara fell out with his predecessor, who obviously brought him to power. That is former governor, Yesom Wike. So the state, Rivers State had this problem of the crisis in the political space here and there. So eventually there have been so many court cases. You know, I think this is the first time the Supreme Court has given a pronouncement, you know, on the issue of Rivers State. And one of the issues is the matter of the 27 lawmakers that, you know, decamped or said to have decamped from the party that brought them to power, that elected them into the House of Assembly. And, you know, they decided, or they declared, that they were no longer members of the People's Democratic Party, and that they've gone to the ruling All Progressive Congress. So from there, the governor picked on them and said they've left, and he could no longer work with them because they are no longer, you know, members of the House of Assembly. So the matter had been lingering, and the governor decided to work with 4 members that did not decamp, 4 members of the House of Assembly. So the budget, the appropriation bill for 2025, as we have now, was passed by these 4 members, 3 members and 1 speaker. And people have been saying that you cannot do that. You cannot do that in the House of 32 and only 4 members sit down to pass the appropriation bill that will affect the lives of millions of people in the state. So the matter now got to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said that the governor should go back and present the budget, the appropriation bill, to the 27 members that the governor did not recognize. I think this is the core of this judgment. And I know that early this week, the governor was to meet with these 20s because he has said he's going to implement the judgment of the Supreme Court. So if he now recognizes these 27 members and work with them and present the budget to them and other things that the members of the House or the House of Assembly supposed to give approval to before the governor acts according to the Constitution, it goes along. For instance, they're supposed to screen and approve his commissioners before they are sworn in. But they didn't do that. I think he presented them, they named the list to the 4 members. So these are the issues. And the president told members of PANDEV, that is the Pan Niger Delta Forum, that went to see him on this matter, go and tell the governor to implement the judgment of the Supreme Court so that there will be peace in Rivers State. And I think that is the way to go to bring about peace. And people are afraid that the 27 members may eventually impeach the governor for violating the constitution.
Because that's exactly what I wanted to ask you. Don't you think the members are going to, in the long run, witch hunting? Because this conversation all falls back on the fact that he fell out with his predecessor. And now, the state, this is a state affair. Why do we have the federal court involved in it? Because ideally, I think this the state legal body is supposed to handle that.
Handle the
issue.
Yes, to chip in. This legal processes. You understand? They have a kind of process. If you start from this court to this court, the matter started from I think High Court, from High Court to Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. Understand? Matter will start maybe in the state, you understand, and it will go beyond, maybe based on the appeal and all that is, you understand, reach up to the Supreme Court. And this particular issue we're discussing, the last judgment was the judgment of by the Supreme Court, you understand. So I think the whole issue, like he said, there was a lot of legal battles. Cases instituted in so many cases regarding the local government election, regarding the presentation of budget, regarding the sacking, the lawmakers, the campaign, and all that. Like he said, this is a particular case that reached the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has issued judgment. And what President was saying, okay, as a leader of the whole nation, maybe people have been calling on him. I think sometimes back, he tried to kind of intervene into the crisis.
From the beginning, he tried to intervene.
We know that this crisis emanated because of the kind of crisis between the godfather and his godson, you understand? And if you look at the whole thing happening critically, you understand, you may find out this is the state that is suffering. A budget was passed by 4 lawmakers, a lot of things. The speaker, the commissioners were screened by the same lawmakers, you understand, a lot of things. Now this judgment is virtually by implication reversing everything, you understand, at the expense of the state. Now I saw it somewhere this morning, I don't know how genuine that was, but someone was saying the governor was today due to present the budget to the 27 lawmakers, and they locked the door, and they didn't allow him to go in. This politics of a thing, so long as we are not going to play politics with decorum, we are going to bond to find ourselves into all this quagmire and all that things. Rivers State, since the day Wike left power, you understand, have been having crisis here and there, you understand. Peace is very paramount. Rivers State is a very business hub, you understand, and a lot of things are happening to the detriment of the businessmen, traditional leaders, politicians, because once the leadership in the state is not settled, you understand, a lot of things will not happen. So I think it's high time. Implementing the Supreme Court judgment is one thing, and quenching the political crisis is another thing. You understand? I believe and I perceive danger because these 27 lawmakers who virtually, by implication, are not in tandem with the governor, you understand, may at the end of the day prostrate him to an extent that the crisis will still, like Mr. Odo was saying, that there was this fear and apprehension that these 27 lawmakers may, at the end of the day, impeach the governor due to some issues here and there. But I equally read in the news that the chief judge of the state, who should have been instrumental to, even if you want to impeach the governor, he must have a role to play, has went for a kind of annual leave out of the country, so that just to make sure that the 27 lawmakers are not been able to perpetuate any thing against the sitting governor. So, like I said, this legal side of the whole crisis is one thing, and the political crisis another. So long as the political crisis is not be resolved, what the president should have done is to make sure that he settled the two leaders in the state. The Wike, who eventually was the predecessor of Pubara, and he was instrumental to his emergence as the candidate of People's Democratic Party, his emergence as the governor, you understand. If this crisis has not been resolved between the two leaders, definitely there may be continuation of crisis rebirth, despite the Supreme Court judgment. The Supreme Court judgment is there, and I believe the government have no alternative than to go and implement the judgment. But he may, at the end of the day, find a kind of bottlenecks implementing those judgments.
Because or he may find a loophole in the judgment. You know, this guy just feels like everyone is thinking.
Loopholes
in the Supreme Court judgment.
There's no loopholes because you cannot take. You cannot go further. But what we are saying, you understand, by law, he must respect law and go and implement.
So what's the worst now that Supreme Court judgment?
What I'm trying to say
to him.
See, what I'm trying to say, him trying to implement those judgments, you understand, may not be very easy to him. Like I was saying, there was this insinuation that they stopped him from presenting budget. So because so long as he doesn't have peace with his predecessor, he doesn't have peace with the 27 lawmakers who are very instrumental to everything he's doing in the state. If he's appointing special advisors, it must go through the National State Assembly. If he's presenting budget, he must present to those lawmakers. Whatsoever, appointing commissioners, they must be screened by those lawmakers. So long as there's this loggerheads between the camp of the governor and the camp of the former governor, I think Rivers State will not see peace. What I said and I reiterated is that President must step in and step in decisively as a leader of the nation to make sure that there should be a peace between the two leaders of the state so that the state will have peace, and at the end of the day, the business of governance will run in the state, and other people doing their own businesses will do their own businesses without any hindrance.
So, this is where we draw the curtain today on the conversation on our program today. And just like we always say, do remember that we are moving towards our platform. Any moment from now, we'll announce to you the good news where you can sit down in the comfort of your house, your office, and watch us live on your television across any country in West Africa. We're not just talking about Nigeria, we're not talking about Abuja, we're not talking about any region of the country. So we are working assiduously to make sure that we bring our packages to you live and direct. And we'd like to say a big thank you for supporting us. Always do this for us, create more awareness for us, like, share, comment. And we'd like to get your views, your opinions about us, help us to grow and in order to serve you better. We at Third Eye Television, we are supposed to see something and say something, but we can't see something without you aiding us in seeing something. So help us to carry out our mandates and do this respectably and responsibly. Once again, it's been a great moment remember we started the show, the news, and then Pastor William Devlin, who has been advocating for the release of Jackson Sunday, and then we came to the newspaper headline, and then the reviews also. So it's been a full package here. We're back tomorrow with more packages for you. Once again, my name is Bivan Magoni. This is Third Eye Television, and we got our eyes on you.